anxious to step through the gate again, Major?
Yes, I am.
We all are.
You like us to bring back anything special?
No thanks.
Groceries, new outfit, flatware?
No, just yourselves in one piece, please. Dial it up. You safe.
Welcome to the Jumping Puddles podcast. Be sure to listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and or YouTube, and follow us at Jumping Puddles Podcast on Tumblr and Instagram, and Jumping Putt Pod on Twitter. And if you want to support our podcast, please check out our coffee. Hi, I'm Sam, and with me are my fellow co-hosts, Tor and Ash.
Hey.
Hi. Oh shit, that's my episode.
Crying already.
And today we're discussing the Season 3 episode, Misbegotten. After dumping 200 dewraithified wraith, including Michael, on a remote planet, the team now has to handle the consequences of a not yet perfected retrovirus. Meanwhile, Elizabeth has to deal with an investigation by the IOA where the outcome could decide the fate of her future in Atlantis.
Dun 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 dun.
We almost did it that time.
We synced up a little, which is close enough.
I love that word in the plot summary, dewraithified. It's great.
It's such a good word. I love it. It might be one of my favorite words coming from the Stargate, or from the podcast at least.
Yeah.
I think I also used it in a title once.
Yeah.
It's a good word.
Guys, what are we doing? That's the title.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? What are we doing?
What a mess.
There's your answer. Episode done. Finished. I think we can cut here.
We thought they were acting a little silly and a little stupid, part one of this, trilogy. We've descended into full madness, full logic out the fucking window. I can't even. This plan sucks. This plan sucks ass.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The war crimes were in the thousands in this episode. I feel like they started and they just did not stop. It was kind of incredible to watch.
Yeah. I did not think going into this podcast 2.5 years ago, that I would become a wraith defender. I have become a wraith defender. Big time. For many reasons. But yeah, I think this episode, kinda, I don't know. What the fuck, guys?
Can I say, I actually felt
so funny.
bad for Michael this episode still.
I know.
I
know.
This is the episode I had the most sympathy for him of the whole show, I feel like.
It was so terrible because you see all the wraith so they have this plan and they still have Michael, and at some point they are let's just dewraithify him as well again, and then they do, and when their shot is in the tent and you see all the wraith, the humans, the human wraith, and then Michael leans forward and oh shit, here we go again. They did it to him again. They double-crossed him again, and I felt terrible for him because this guy was so trusting and so set on, I'm sure they're meaning well and they don't want to, they're doing this, they're helping us, and I felt so bad, and I felt his personality came through a little bit. Also from being a wraith, because, we saw it in other episodes that he trusts, or he chose to trust John, for example, because, he was an outcast on, the wraith side. So I kind of like that part, that like we saw different personalities in different wraith, because like usually they're like shown as this like one huge homogeneous species, but in this case like they were like different, like in their human forms at least they were like different personalities. I really like that. But Michael being so trusting and knowing what had happened before and what will happen later, or like what they did to him, it's just it's heartbreaking. This poor guy.
Yeah, it's terrible because at this point, he really personally, besides the fact of him being a wraith, has done nothing to incite suspicion. He's never double-crossed them. He's only really helped them so far. And, well, besides the Teyla situation back then. But, recently, he hasn't really done anything to gain suspicion, and so him being like hurt when Teyla comes into the room to talk to him and he's being under guard and all that, and him kind of mentioning to her, you know, like, I'm outcast in race society now, and now I'm outcast by you and your people as well, even though I helped you, and like all I want is a ship to fly away from here, and you won't give it to me. It was just sad. I felt kind of bad.
Mm-hmm. He was so desperate in that scene, I feel like.
Yeah. I think it's just so funny. There's that meme where it's like stop kicking him, he's already dead. And that's how I felt about Michael in this episode, like, times 10. Because I just feel like, you know, we've gone through, like, and analyzed these episodes, and I just feel like since that season 2 episode, Michael, I've just been like, wow, this is, like, really terrible. Like, he deserved to go, like, full villain after Michael, okay? After that first episode. And now it's been, like, 4 or 3 episodes since then, and it's like, wow, like, I would have done, like, so much worse if I was him. Like, I would have gone berserk. I would have tried to just blow up Atlantis, like, just to be rid of everyone. Because they are so cruel. Like, so unimaginably cruel to him in this episode. Like, not only is just, like, them, again, like, not trusting him, or, like, not, like, trying to make him seem like he's fucking crazy for just wanting to leave. All he wants to do is fucking leave, and they're like, no, we can't let you go. I'm like, okay. Not only that, I don't know why, but, like, just the image of, like, that him being in that same fucking room again, where they had, like, first brainwashed him to believe it was home, and then putting him back in that room felt so... I was, like, flabbergasted. I was like, you couldn't have just thrown him in prison? Like, that would have been, like, kinder. That would have been, like, a mercy. But throwing him back, and then not only putting him back in that room, then giving him the virus without his consent again, and then throwing him in the general wraith populace, and just being like, yeah, here you go, you're normal, you're with everyone. Like, not even getting, I don't know why, but I was like, they couldn't have just been like, okay, like, given him the virus and then kept him in the city, or like, you know, like, I don't know, done something. But it, again, just feels so evil to do this to him for, like, the third fucking time, the second time, whatever, and then drop him with everyone else as if he's just some fucking, like, random ass wraith we don't know, when we know his name, we know who he is, and, like, you guys know who he is, and, like, you don't feel any, like, guilt or any, like, you don't feel anything when you just see him with everyone else in that camp. Like, you don't feel the empathy. It's just, like, fucking gone. And it just blew my mind.
Even worse, they gave him the name.
Yeah.
They basically made him, or tried to, at least, and it didn't work. But yeah, you're so right. It's so cruel that they pretended like he was just, like, one of the others, even though they had worked with him. They had allied with him even briefly. And they just, basically throw him into the gutter. but yeah, I really sympathize with him, but also he's like, I feel like he's the only smart one here right now, or like the only one with clear sight, because like the things he said, like the wraith not being, or like being wraith not being a disease that you can cure, well, like that hit me. That was like, yes, exactly. That's what I think we've been talking about that before, right? That like Carson has this weird thing about like wanting to free them, to help them, and I feel like he sees through every crack of their plan and calls them out on their shit. So he's the only one with sees more or less clearly, because yes, he's on the victim side, but also like he's right. He's right in everything he says.
Yeah, that line, I also wrote that down. I was just like, that line is just perfect, and I think it really summarizes like our sort of, like, again, like the discussions we've had and stuff, and also just our point of view. Like, not to pivot away from Michael, because obviously we're going to be talking about him a lot, but I'm just so utterly baffled by what the writer's goal here is. Let's just pretend the other episodes didn't exist. Okay, whatever. But especially in this episode, I don't know how you can watch this episode and like root for the team and like not feel like disgusted by like what John and Carson specifically are doing, and how like Elizabeth is just like letting this all happen. Like, especially those three. I just feel like, how can you watch this and not, like, I don't know how, are we supposed to root for the team? How do you go against it when Michael's literally saying what I am is not a disease? And I also think that got me into like thinking, I was like, that's such like I don't know, it's kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm just like putting like too much into it, but I don't know, I just feel like it's a very like poignant line, and then I feel like it kind of like starts to tie itself to like some really like disgusting like themes, sort of real world type of things. Like, it's giving like eugenics, it's also giving like conversion therapy-esque type of vibes, and it just feels so disgusting. And I don't know what we're supposed to get from this episode. I'm just really confused. What is the point? What, like, again, we've already kicked Michael. We've been kicking him in the balls repeatedly. Like, I don't know. What are we supposed to be feeling for him at this point? I don't know. And I don't remember if he pops up in the rest of season 3. I feel like he does. It might be until season 4. Or does he in season 3?
Is Vengeance season 3 or season 4?
Oh, I think it might be season...
I think it's season 3.
Like at the end of season 3?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think it's 319. So at the end of the season.
Yeah, so at the end of the season we see him, and obviously we know that that's when he starts to experiment and all this shit. But it's just like, I don't know. It just, I get, and I love that like the Atlantis team are morally gray. I'm just not sure what, like, I know we enjoy that, but I'm just not sure like what the writer's intention was. I'm just confused by their motives. Constantly.
Right. Like, we as viewers are seeing the team as morally gray. But was that the intention behind the writing? That is the true question. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to watch Michael, is like his impassioned plea to Teyla about wanting to retain his identity and his memories. And you can kind of see, like, kudos to Rachel, like her kind of getting a little bit almost emotional. Like, I don't know. It seemed like a little bit like maybe his words were hitting her a little bit. But it's hard to watch that and then be like, yeah, but we're doing the right thing. So, yeah, it's just really, really interesting tension in this episode.
Also, to go back to what Sam just said about, like, what was the goal here? Are we not, like, apparently we're not to sympathize with the wraith humans. because, like, right? It's just, like, the team obviously struggles to, like, see them as humans, and I think we as viewers are not supposed to see them as humans as well. But what really kind of tipped me off, where I was like, okay, you have not only crossed the line, you, like, just, like, ran over it, and you just kept running and running, is when they fired on a planet, and it was like, okay, blanket the whole area. Like, nobody gets off this planet. I was like, oh, what? What the fuck?
That was their failsafe. Their big failsafe, in case this whole fucked up little project went wrong on this stupid little fucking planet, was to nuke it out of existence. Like, no words. No fucking words! Oh my gosh.
Yikes. And I feel like there are countless moments in the episode where we are told and shown that not only John, but the rest of the team, pretty much as a whole, do not view the wraith humans as actual human beings or, like, on an equal level to human beings. Like, Woolsey points it out to John, basically saying, like, you converted these wraith into humans, but, like, you would never attempt to integrate them into society because you will never trust them. So what are you doing? Like, what was the purpose of turning them into humans if you're just gonna leave them? And, like, we know that the hope is that these humans are gonna be eaten by wraith or, like, whatever, but that's terrible. And then at the end of the episode where Carson, I think it was only Carson, mentioning, like, oh, like, we should try to evacuate the wraith humans who are still stuck on the planet. And John's like, yeah, I'm not taking that risk with the hive ship on the way, so I'll just nuke everybody. And you can say it's my fault, but that's what we're doing. I was like, so yeah. So you don't think of them as human beings, clearly, because you had no qualms just blowing them up. And, like, normally this is a trait that I actually find very interesting about AR1 specifically, but Atlantis in general, how they always kind of prioritize each other and themselves over other people, no matter what. But, like, this was extremely dubious and telling and terrible.
Yeah. And I think, wow, there's a lot I want to say from what you just talked about. I'll go with Carson first. We'll talk about Carson, because, I don't know, I went back and forth. Because on one hand, I was just, again, pissed at Carson, because what kind of modifications did Carson make to make this any quote-unquote better? No, you fucking didn't. That's a lie. None of this seemed improved from Michael. This was yet again another, like, shot in the dark and just, like, a Hail Mary type plan. However, I also do feel like he sort of, I don't know, I felt a little, I believed his, like, sort of guilt a little more, I think, this episode. Especially, like, seeing how he, like, treated the human wraith in comparison to, like, John and Ronan, who were just still very much, like, get the fuck off me, and who are very much, like, openly, like, yeah, no, I don't see them as humans. At least Carson, like, trying to, like, be nice to them, or, like, incorporate them, like, right, he had a little assistant, he was like, I believe in you, you can totally give the injections. And just, like, it was little things where I was like, okay. I was like, I really appreciated that from Carson. And it was, like, refreshing, I guess, in a way, to see him, like, doing that, especially when you compare it to John and Ronan. But I don't know, I'm still, like, conflicted, because obviously this is his plan. This is, like, or not his plan, but this is his retrovirus. And, like, stop. We already tried this with Michael and it didn't work. And he's like, I made modifications. No, you did. Or anything you still didn't work. And like trying this on like this many people too, like this is torture. This, like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. This is torture. It may not be like necessarily physical, or it is kind of physical because they're changing their, body and everything, but it's also mental and emotional torture. Like, this is torture in every way you look at it. And I'm just tired of him, like, willingly going along and then feeling guilty about it. Like, yeah, I don't know. And then again, like, Teyla and Rodney kind of pissed me off. I mean, even though they're not really, like, in this episode, I just get so upset because I feel like Teyla would be way more vocal about her dislike of this. And I feel like Rodney's, like, uncomfortability, like, kind of makes sense. But I just feel like Teyla would stand up for herself, or like stand up and be like, hey, this is wrong, especially after she talked to Michael and she had that scene where she was like kind of feeling like this is wrong. I'm so sick of them just like having her be all sad in the background. Like, let her speak is how I feel a lot of the times. I'm just like, she would say something and be like, this is not okay. But yeah,
another thing, because you mentioned Rodney, I was kind of terrified that in the end, again, going back to when they nuked the whole place, that they made Rodney fire.
That was fucked up.
Yeah, that was fucked up. Because he's not military, I don't know, they don't really have like a... They just trying everything to like get the wraith ship, like from, like, to keep it running and like figuring the systems out and stuff, but still, I felt like it was not, like, just cruel for Rodney to having to fire and, like, to commit that atrocity and to follow that order. Like, why him? You're right, he's not very outspoken about this whole thing. I don't know, but still, I feel like it doesn't fit. Like, did they just have him do that because he was there, or because they needed someone to do it? But I feel like Rodney wouldn't do that. I don't know.
It's so tough. Yeah, it was such a weird thing. Like, I feel like, especially after the Trinity situation, there would be a little bit more of a thought, a hesitation behind something like that again. And maybe they just didn't have time for it in the episode, but I kind of wish it was more of a vocal one instead of a kind of just like grimace, press the button sort of situation. Although I do kind of like subtextually what that says about John's position of authority over everybody else on the team in situations like that. Like, I think John giving Rodney the kill order was really, like, juicy. Like, it's really interesting to pick apart. And, like, I'm kind of wondering now, like, oh, is there any fic about this? Like, I'd be interested to read it. But, yeah, like, it's kind of like, what do you do in that situation? Like, say no to the military commander of the team? Like, I don't think Rodney has any respect for the military, period, but I think he has respect for John, and so that kind of creates sort of tension that's interesting. So, yeah, it was just a weird, very weird scene. I was just gonna go back to Carson and just say that one line about him losing his empathy was really poignant. I think, I don't think we've seen it that well. It wasn't a very slow decline, it was a very rapid decline in his loss of empathy in the Pegasus Galaxy, but having him vocalize it finally is kind of nice, because it kind of makes things in retrospect make a little bit more sense with this whole retrovirus nonsense mixed with his do no harm doctoriness.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it could have been such an interesting arc to have like your head doctor go from someone like with empathy, someone who maybe like refused to do all this, sort of have to be forced to because they're in quote unquote war, and having to pick up that like dubious mantle and have to just like deal with like the repercussions of his actions. That would have been super interesting. But yeah, there's like there's no arc really, it's just A to B. Carson starts off, he is willingly doing these experiments, and then sometimes he's sad about it, but he's still doing them. So, I guess he's not that sad. And he's still acting like a jolly old guy, so I guess it doesn't affect him too much. So, not really much of an arc there, but I think the potential is cool, and I guess it's just nice to have a character genuinely feel terrible or like generally look bad and say, at least vocalize sometimes like, I'm not okay with this. Because again, I just feel like I get Elizabeth, I don't know if I get Elizabeth, but I get Ronan, I get John, I even get Rodney to an extent. I do feel like he would kind of just take a backseat in some of this because he's not unhappy with it, but he's not for it. I feel like he would just kind of just be like, okay, whatever. But I really don't get Teyla. That's my thing, and so it's kind of nice that at least Carson is saying something and speaking up about it at times, and because I would just want that for Teyla. I think Teyla and Carson would both be sort of against it, and I think if Teyla spoke up, I think maybe more people would. Like, I think maybe Carson would be maybe a little more vocal about it, and then I think maybe even Rodney would sort of chime in and be like, yeah, I'm not okay with this, actually. And I think, well, I guess we can transition to Elizabeth, because there's a lot with Elizabeth. I do think, and I kind of wish that Elizabeth was present for some of this, because I would have liked to have seen her reaction to, like, these camps, which is like, oh god, whoa, scary theme. It's parallel to real world. Now that I just said camp, I was like, whoa, hate that, wow. And I do wonder if maybe Elizabeth was there, like, on the planet, seeing everything, if she would have pulled back and said, like, no, this is wrong. Or if she would have just done, steamrolled ahead. But, I don't know, man. I like her. Obviously, I still love her, but I just think this is such a mess. And while I do think that she should still be in charge of Atlantis, I think, like, she doesn't get enough, like, there's no consequences necessarily for her. And, like, she kind of just gets away with this again. And I think it was fine, I guess, for, like, part 1 of this trilogy. I'm gonna call it trilogy. But, like, for this part 3, I'm like, there's kind of no excuse. Like, you should be feeling something. Consequences, please. She got off too easy. Honestly, all of them did, but I'm saying mostly her because she's the leader of Atlantis and, like, she's sanctioned all of this, but it's just like, oh, you should... Consequences.
It's so funny because I just realized personally, I completely detached her from this episode, from this situation, because what you said, she wasn't there for most of the time. I also, like, I had it in the episode description, I completely separated her from the bigger plot of the episode, because the whole time that the Atlantis team was, like, doing their stuff, like, their experiment, she was fighting, big quotation marks, she was fighting, like, her own fight back on Earth with the IOA, and then back in Atlantis with Wolsey, I guess. So it was an interesting, I don't know if you can call it B-plot, but, like, I feel like, there were, like, 2 storylines here. One with, like, that, and the other one with, like, Elizabeth and her trying to keep in command of Atlantis. But if I remember correctly, there's, like, a scene between her and Wolsey in the end where they talk about the situation. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna put that in the report and say that you sanctioned this, right? And she was like, oh, but that's not what happened. He was like, oh, but you would have, like, basically gone along with the plan. And everything that Sam just said, yeah, it's weird to have her then in the end tied back to all of that. But not really being there or being really involved, I feel.
I think
so. It's weird for me. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
It's weird for me in a bunch of different levels. Like one that she's leader of Atlantis, but she's not there, and then she's there, but still not really. And in the end, she's responsible and should take the responsibility. And then when she is the leader of Atlantis, but still everything has been going on without her. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is that what is her role? Like I think it goes back to how does Elizabeth, or how were the writers embedding Elizabeth in the story, which I feel like they weren't, and that's why she doesn't really get to feel that, or like she doesn't really, because the writers kind of didn't know what to do with her. She's kind of detached up from the whole thing, which is why she's not showing as many emotions or is not as close to the whole thing, which is why there are not really any consequences, because to me it feels like she wasn't involved, which makes me angry on a whole other level, because Elizabeth is there, she should be involved, and she should take responsibility and all that, and yeah.
I think it has a little bit to do with, well, this isn't just my interpretation, I could be wrong, but I feel like it has a little bit to do with how insular the Atlantis expedition is and how they're very protective of their own. Because I feel like in this episode, we kind of had a cycle of John defending his actions, but by proxy defending Elizabeth's position on Atlantis by defending his actions. And then Elizabeth, we know historically, has always gone to bat for John and defended him. And it's kind of like, well, we're at war, like, what do you want? Like, this is our situation, and, like, you're not there, so we have to make decisions on the fly. And so I kind of feel like they kind of defend each other in this way, like, where they're making decisions and, like, defending each other's decisions because they're trying to protect each other's positions on Atlantis and in the expedition, because they need each other for, like, this to work and for Atlantis to run the way it's always has, and, like, properly and, like, the way they want. And so, yeah, so I feel like she kind of gets she didn't even get the opportunity to, like, express an opinion about what's going on because of that, in a weird way. So as much as I love that, I also don't love it because there's kind of, like, no autonomy to her in this episode. Weird dynamics, weird balance.
Kind of. Well, I don't disagree necessarily, but maybe I am disagreeing a little bit with what you guys are saying, because I think in this episode, yes, I do think, like, she was kind of robbed of that autonomy, like Tor was saying, and just, like, robbed of, like, not being able to just be there and, like, see it for herself, you know? But I was thinking, I was like, she was there, though, for all of Michael.
That's true. That's true.
Like, she was, like, front and center, like, watching him, like, change, and then, you know, she was also there in part 1, where they injected a wraith, turned him human, so the Wraith Queen could eat him. So I kind of, like, disagree that, like, she wasn't, I don't know, like, present enough to, like, make her own opinions, I guess. Because she's been there through all of it. And, I mean, yeah, she didn't see, like, the worst of it, I guess you could say. But she's seen both of these experiments that combine into one big one, like, on a smaller scale. And she was already like, yeah, we're in war. We're gonna do it. Like, she had no problems with that. Really. Like, maybe she was like, oh, this, I don't even remember her being like, this is terrible. I mainly just remember her being like, yeah, this is at war. We're at war. That was it. That was like her excuse. That her and John are just both like so obsessed with saying, and it's like, that doesn't mean it's okay. There's things like you shouldn't really, like lines you still shouldn't cross. And I don't think, again, we've been talking about this, where are the wraith that much of like a nuisance? They barely showed up in season 2, and then all of a sudden, the Atlantis team are like, no, we need to. We're like, it's not like the wraith have crossed into Earth or anything. It's not like the wraith have found the Milky Way. They can still like hold them back. It's not like their city is crumbling and they have like 0 ZPM. Like, this is not like a life. They're making it seem like so much bigger than it is, and it's really like, okay, but like, you guys have been fighting the wraith. You guys have been like taking down hive ships. Like, it's not like they're not like winning. Well, maybe they're not winning, but you know, I think they've taken them down. They've, you know, aimed really well and like got a few punches in. I don't know, like the escalation to it is just to get like really strange from like 0 to 100. All of a sudden it's like, we need to kill all these people. We need to turn all the wraith humans so they can eat each other and, you know, throw them on a little planet somewhere else. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, again, it's like Elizabeth and John who are kind of like the main perpetrators. And I think that, like, yeah, both of them are in the wrong. Like, I'm pretty upset at both of them. But I think what upsets me about Elizabeth is that Wolsey at the end, like, reassures her. And he's like, don't worry. Like, he's like, I get it. He's like, I don't know, it's just a weird conversation at the end where he's just basically letting her off too easily. And I don't think any of them should be let off. I think all of them should have learned from this. And I think I would have understood if they learned. But I don't think they learned their lesson. I don't think we get another storyline of them, like, creating humans. But I wish there was more of, like, an emphasis of, like, them at the end being like, oh, we fucked up. Or, like, realizing this was wrong. We crossed the line. And then making an effort to scale it back, and then it being too late. Because Michael has created these humans. I think that could have really worked. And it was almost there. They just, like, missed a few steps of the characters feeling, like, any sort of remorse and, like, regret. And, like, any of the characters trying to make a change afterwards. But then they have these characters, like, Elizabeth, John, and Ronan, who are just so, like, sort of, like, rewarded, almost, in a way, for, like, their belief of, like, what we're doing is right. Because no one is telling them, like, everyone's like, oh yeah, it's wrong, kind of, and they're like, but you're free. Just run the Pegasus Galaxy how you want. Like, keep doing what you're doing. So, yeah. There's just a lot wrong with it.
I'm gonna go back for a second about, like, are the wraith really that much of a threat? Because I believe they are in universe, even if we don't see it that much. I think, like, the wraith have been around for... How long have the ancients been gone? For more than 10,000 years. Mm-hmm. And they've kept kind of like a reign of terror over, like, the whole galaxy, with not letting civilizations grow a lot, advance a lot. So I think they are a threat, and I think the Atlantis team trying to remove the threat is not that far a stretch. I agree that it's not shown, like, how they got to that point. But I think, like, thinking in universe, I think the wraith have always been there and always been a threat and always, just in the background. And now it kind of just broke out.
Yeah. It was more, like, told, not shown, which I think is, like, the main problem, especially, I think, like, maybe, like, I don't know, season 1 did we've talked about this, season 1 did a much better job of, like, incorporating the wraith, and then season 2, the wraith kind of, like, were gone for large chunks, so it just didn't feel like that, you know? But I also think, like, I was just thinking right now, I was like, take SG-1, though, like, they never, it's only been 2 seasons of Atlantis, and, you know, SG-1, like, never, I'm trying to remember, like, what was the craziest thing they did, like, against the gold? Like, I'm trying to...
Oh.
You know, it took, like, 8 seasons, and I don't think they never went anywhere near as far as the Atlantis team did, I think.
I cannot remember. It's been way too long. But, I get what you mean, though. I feel like the war crimes are a lot more apparent in Atlantis than...
Yeah.
Especially because there is a very big distinction between the two in the sense that the Atlantis expedition was never supposed to be a militarized thing because it was just for exploration. And then all of a sudden, oops, the wraith are here. We didn't know that before. Which is kind of a thing in this episode. Like, that's the whole reason they're considering changing who is in Elizabeth's position, right? Like, wasn't the threat to Earth was made by the wraith, and then the IOA was considering changing the leader of Atlantis to be one that is a military leader instead of a civilian leader. But at the end of the day, what's happening in the Pegasus galaxy doesn't really affect the Milky Way galaxy all that much, so the IOA doesn't really make a decision because they don't really give a fuck. So they're like, whatever, Elizabeth's good in her position, she can stay, and what they're doing is fine. I feel bad in a way for Elizabeth because I don't think that she went in there expecting that she would have to make these decisions about, like, killing all these alien creatures and, like, doing these scientific experiments, because that wasn't what the expedition was supposed to be about originally. So yeah, it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, I just wish we could see her struggle with it more, because the only time I remember her struggling is in the iconic line when back in season 1 with her and John, and she's like something about, like, the Geneva Conventions, and he's like, well, if the race showed up, they would have eaten everyone.
Right.
That's like the when they're talking about, like, the atomic bomb in the Janai episode, and she's like, I sent you out for food.
Like that she didn't expect to become an arms dealer like 2 weeks into being in Pegasus, yeah. But she still does it, which is kind of hilarious. But, like, she says these things like, oh, I didn't plan on, like, I didn't expect it to be that way, and then she just makes all the decisions anyways. This is such a weird episode, I just realized, like, for me personally, because I realized that I completely detached, like, characters from plot for some reason, which I don't know how that's possible, but, like, I feel like on a plot level, this is a really, really extremely problematic episode, but, like, on a character level, I really liked a lot of the stuff. Like, I really liked a lot of, like, the Elizabeth stuff. I thought she was, like, absolutely amazing. I feel like this 3-parter is really, really good for Elizabeth. Like, for her character, I feel like she gets more time. She gets, like, to show off, like, her skills and also her position that she, like, worked for, and her, like, connection to Atlantis. And, like, shows that she's in a unique position that, like, no one else can, like, do. Basically, yeah, but, and also, like, there were a few other scenes where I was like the one team scene.
Yeah!
But, like, the team's scene when she comes back to Atlantis and they have, like, this little meeting, and she says, like, oh, I'm really happy, like, to be back and to see you all. It's been so long. And then she gets kind of emotional, and the team is like, it's fine. And it's a really, really cute team scene. And then Woolsey completely crashes it. But yeah, so there are these two sides to this episode that are just only, like, I wrote a lot of the stuff down, and I made notes on a lot of stuff that we already discussed about, like, the war crimes, basically. But weird.
It is a weird vibe. this episode for sure. Yeah, and there's things that Elizabeth does in this episode that, like you said, I really love. Like when Woolsey believed that one of the Athosians was the mole, closer to the end of the episode, when they're like, why is the hive ship coming to the planet? We found out later, obviously, it was the wraith, like, doing their telepathy shit that brought the hive ship to the planet. Mm-hmm. But Woolsey suggested that it was actually an Athosian, the people indigenous to the Pegasus galaxy that were, spilling the beans. And Elizabeth was very quick to defend the Athosian people, which I appreciated. And, like you were saying, that scene with Elizabeth and the team is actually one of my favorite scenes of the season. Maybe the whole series. I feel like it's kind of a thesis statement about the team as characters and, like, as a whole, right? Because, like...
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing.
Elizabeth is just so happy to see them and is vocalizing that, and John, the emotionally unavailable person that he is like, you don't have to talk about your feelings. That's fine. It's better for me that way. And Teyla, of course, jumps in and reciprocates because she's the only, like, emotionally available one of everybody on the team. And Rodney and Elizabeth in this episode, in this scene in particular, was just
so cute.
So cute. Like, him kind of playing up his role as, like, the socially unaware one, and then looking back at her and, like, smiling, like he, like, intentionally was doing. Oh, it was just so... I love Rodney. And I love his friendship with Elizabeth. So yeah, that was just great. I really love that scene. So good.
Ronan is just a silent one.
There you go.
Just to round it up. He's there.
He's just there.
Smiling in the background.
Honestly, where was Ronan this episode?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of... We know what we should start doing. We should have a Where is Ronan tally.
Oh, God.
This season. So, if we're ever feeling like in an episode he's, like, just not around, we should add it to the Where is Ronan tally. This is strike one.
He was definitely John's little shadow this episode. Not a lot of stuff on his own, really.
John's little murder shadow.
Yeah.
I think what we should start doing is, as long with with the Where's Ronan tally, we need to also make up reasons, or we need to make up stuff of what he was actually doing in this episode. So, what was Ronan doing in this episode?
I don't know.
Okay, he got his wisdom teeth taken out. And so he couldn't really vocalize himself as much as he would have wanted. And that's why, and he was in a lot of pain. So he was just hanging out with John and just going along with whatever he said.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I did like his little, like, bodyguard moment with John, where the wraith human kind of, like, grabbed John's arm, and Ronan immediately, like, flanked him, like, no, don't touch him. So that was very Ronan-y of him to do that. And even though I'm a Michael defender this episode, I'm gonna say that Ronan, like, showing up to his house, his room, excuse me, and being like, I wish I was your executioner, bitch, was really great. I really like that line. The bitch was implied. It wasn't said, but it was definitely implied. Yeah, that was a hard line. I liked it.
Their beef is so funny.
Their
beef is so funny. Because, like, what? Michael's just like, wait, what? And Ron's just like, I fucking hate you. It's giving Teal'c and Ball, which is one of my favorite beefs in Stargate, too.
True! I didn't even think of that.
Because Teal'c hates Ball with, like, every fiber in his being, and Ball's like, I wish you were my first prime. But I wanted to talk about the team episode, the team scene, sorry. Because, yeah, I firmly believe that's the best team scene, like, in the series. Because Atlantis is known for being, like, the opposite of SG-1. SG-1 is very much, like, the touchy-feely, they're always hugging, they're always, like, I don't know if they're vocalized as much, but, you know, they're always, like, they're a team, they're a family. And I love that for SG-1. And I also love that you get Atlantis, where they're, like, never touch, never hug ever. They're like, they find it like near impossible to say how much they mean to each other. Like, Teyla forces it out of John and he's like dying basically as he says, I would do anything for you guys. They're very much actions are louder than words type people, which I love. And so what I love about this scene so much is that it's like one of the rare, if not the only times, where it's like actually vocalized out loud. Elizabeth is saying, you know, like, I miss you guys. You know, things have been hard, but now that we're here, you know, and she's looking at them, she can't even say it. And then again, you get the classic, each character just is so perfectly characterized. Like Tor said, like, Teyla was the emotional one, agreeing with her. John was trying to deflect. And Rodney was like kind of just being a little goof, but also like acknowledging Elizabeth's words and smiling at her. And again, Ronan just standing there with his wisdom tooth, still in pain from his surgery. And so I just love that scene so much. I use it like in every edit possible with the Atlantis team. That's like a cute or like a sweet edit. Like I just have to throw it in there because it just summarizes them perfectly as a unit.
Absolutely. I also really love the fact that John really wanted to punch Woolsey in the head for for trying to like take Elizabeth's job away from her, like undermine her authority, but he held himself back because he didn't want to cause any problems for her. And Elizabeth was so chuffed about it. She was just like, that's right. I was like, yes, girl. I feel like Atlantis could have been the most amazing show if they really leaned into it being like a reverse harem. So like everyone is obsessed with Elizabeth and like has a big crush on Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And doesn't know what to do about it. And she has her pick of literally everyone on Atlantis. Because that was the vibe I was picking up in this episode. For sure.
Yeah, it is so funny. First of all, that scene with John, where he just races into her office and stuff, like yelling about Woolsey, basically, is so funny. And she's so smug about it. Like, she's like, her line is, John Shepherd, are you defending my honor? It's like, I feel like that is one of the most iconic things that, especially Sparky Shipper, mention all the time. But then also, I think he goes back and has like, I just really want to punch that guy. And she's like, oh, it's a thought that counts. And it's she doesn't stop. But also, what you said about the harem, yeah, it's my God, it is so funny how, another thing I really loved about Elizabeth, this episode, is that she, like, with the IOA, with the, politicians, that she so knows how to play this game. She's played it before billions of times, and she knows exactly what she do. She knows what she's doing, and she knows how to play the game. She knows how to play Woolsey. It is so, their dynamic was so fucking funny to me for some reason, because he's like this very, I don't know, stuck-up guy, and she knows that he has no clue what he's doing, basically, when it comes to going off-world and all that stuff. Like, he's been off-world, but he's like, oh, I just realized he does do what she does later, but, like, he could never do what she does. And she keeps messing with him, like, with there's this line, I think it's about the Asgard, and he's like, oh, I've never met an Asgard. And he's like, oh, I bet you would like them. They have a great sense of humor. And he's like, really? And she's like, no.
Yeah, she was having way too much fun. It's like watching a cat with a ball of yarn, like, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. And then, so that scene was kind of hilarious, and also, like, she was, like, I felt like the whole time she was just trying to, like, get Woolsey on her side, and she eventually succeeded. Like, we talked about it, it's not ideal, like, with the consequences and stuff, but still, but also, when Sewell was like, yes, Elizabeth is, like, the queen and everyone has a crush on her, it was a scene where she's not even in it, but it's when Caldwell and Woolsey are talking.
Yeah!
And you can see that Caldwell, like, he's still somehow, like, he's somehow on Elizabeth's side and, like, kind of defending her and kind of, like, yes, he has, like, his own agenda with, like, because he's, commander of the, Daedalus and stuff, but still he's kinda, like, he's on her side and low-key defending her, and he's like, oh yeah. So, I fully support everybody on Atlantis that has a crush on Elizabeth, theory.
Absolutely. It's just facts.
I loved how playful Elizabeth was this episode. And I wish it was kind of just incorporated in her character all the time, because I feel like she does have, like, you can see, like, she has the ability to just, like, laugh and, like, make a joke, and even though they're, like, hey, serious, they're literally trying to fire her, she's, like, cracking jokes with the guy who's, like, evaluating whether she's good enough or not. Like, I love that, and I want to see more of it. I thought Tor was gonna say that, when she was talking about the John and Elizabeth dynamic, I thought you were gonna say that you wanted them to be more like Harvey and Donna from Suits, because I was gonna be like, I agree.
I agree with that statement. I do agree with that.
Because
work wife and work husband?
You gotta watch Suits. Yes. That's the vibe. And I just feel like their banter is so great, because they are just on the same, like, level. They just know each other so well. And I just feel like that should have been John and Elizabeth. Especially because, like, I mean, they are that to some extent. But especially just, like, the way they, like, protect each other and, like, literally go around in circles and being like, no, I got you. No, I got you. I'll defend you. I'll defend you. I feel like them having a very, like, silly office, like, banter type of relationship just fits in so well, with their characters and stuff. And you see it here. Like, you see the little seeds of it, with how John just walks into her office all pissed, and she's, like, just cracking up at how upset he is when she's not even, like, that, bothered by this point. So yeah, no, I just love them. And I love how, not happy, but playful, I guess, she was. And I hope that continues in season 3. I don't really remember, obviously, a lot, but I hope that continues.
Since we're talking about Elizabeth, I just want to mention that I really love that we started this episode with a little bit of Teylabeth. Just trying to sustain a long-distance relationship. I really appreciated that. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
The crumbs, we'll take it.
Teyla, and Elizabeth, you, like, our people. Like, everyone in Atlantis is their people. Just, like, so cute. And I have to say, Teyla is so good at the leadership role. Like, she was so calm about the hive ship coming. She had everything under control. It was great.
They should be, when Elizabeth left, Teyla should have taken over.
Absolutely.
Like, the leadership of Atlantis. And then when Elizabeth returned, which she obviously does, somehow, they should have just been co-leaders.
I agree. Agree.
Yes.
Atlantis power couple.
Exactly.
I just think we've been, like, flaming Elizabeth. We've been, like, grilling Carson. Well, we actually let Carson, I feel like, off a little bit today. But we need to yell at John. We haven't crucified him yet. We need to yell at John.
Yeah.
What is wrong with him?
I think it's a question he even asks himself a lot.
Yeah. This is true.
He's so stuck in, like, war mode, and I've never really, like, looked at him as sort of like like a veteran. I don't know why. I just guess like I kind of just forget that that's like a part of his background. But I feel like this episode is like a sharp reminder that he is a veteran of a war, obviously a different war. But you don't come away from that without obviously having some type of maybe potential trauma / just like you come back differently, you could say, obviously to varying degrees. And I guess because he doesn't really talk about the war or like mention his backstory that often, that we all kind of, or I'm always like, oh, like he was like, he served and then he left, you know, because he saved his friend, that was it, and then he went to Antarctica. But yeah, no, when you think about this episode, and like I think when you really get down to it, I think we're seeing like a trauma response. I don't know, just like the way that like he is like so adamant in defending his actions and Elizabeth. Like he's so like, this is survival. We're in war is what he says. There's also another line, casualties of war is what he calls them. And it has to be done is what he says as well. Like it's just very like, oh yeah, I forgot you've been through this. Like you've done stuff like this. And I think using those same excuses, I don't know, it's just kind of like, it's very icky. Just a very, and then just his lack of empathy is just also kind of crazy. And I think, I do wonder, like, for example, like, if Caldwell or someone else was, like, in charge of, like, the military, like, what they would have done in this situation. Because I'm not saying that, like, the military wouldn't have, like, pushed for this, like, or they could have, they might not have, they might have pushed for just nuking them, like, just in general, like, not even trying to change them into humans, just going straight for, like, the kill. But I just wonder, because, I don't know, it's just weird, and I just, because sometimes I'm like, is he really the right choice for commander of the military part of Atlantis? You could make a debate that he's probably not the right choice. Like, he wasn't supposed to be this high-ranking officer, right? He kind of fell into his lap. And Elizabeth went to bat for him, so many times, and he's gone to bat for Elizabeth. When you really think about it, like, as Tor was saying earlier, they kind of have this, like, very, like, I almost want to use the word, like, toxic sort of, like, dependence, and, like, you've been throwing on the word codependency. I don't know if I would say take it that far and say codependency, but like they just have a very like they're very reliant on each other in this universe. Like they're isolated. They're the two highest ranking officials, so they're very much like we are in this. But I wonder if that's at the detriment of the Pegasus Galaxy and also of the expedition. Because I don't, especially after this episode, I kind of wish Elizabeth had come back and said, you were wrong, and I was wrong, and so we need a change. And so I actually wouldn't have minded if, like, they had a little mini arc where he was, like, forced to step down as military commander, and, like, maybe Caldwell or someone else had taken over for a brief time. Or, I don't know, just throwing it out. But, anyways, John, wrong. Bad. Bad John.
I think the way I, like, rationalize his behavior in my head is, like, this dude, was almost dismissed from military service because he cared too much about his fellow soldier. So now you're placing this guy in charge of not only a military, but a bunch of civilian people as well. And I'm not sure that's the best decision, because he's proven to you, you almost fired him because he cares too much about people. So he might do things that are immoral, unethical, not the smartest, in order to defend his own. So I feel like all the things he was doing, while it's definitely overkill, in this case, he has that thing to fall back on. The, like, I did what I had to do, and it was necessary. And, like, casualties are fine as long as the casualties are not his. You know what I mean? So I love that about John, but it also makes him up to, like, not great person as well. Just not the best moral character.
I wouldn't even. Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, morally gray or just like morally black? I think morally black is probably.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no gray here, babes. No gray.
No. Also, he, like, you peopled the wraith. Like, he actually said you people to the wraith people. So it's like, wow. Wow, John.
We were talking about, like, lack of Ronan, obviously, but there was one scene where it was really, Ronan. And it's when they are on the planet at some point, and I think it's after almost everything has gone downhill, and Ronan kind of, I think he goes looking for the team, the security team that stayed there, and he comes back and says, no, they're all dead. But he brought their dog tags, and I don't know why I thought it was such a moment just for him. Like, I don't know if they had something like that on Satida, or if he just, like, got fully integrated into the Earth military, but I thought it was such a sweet... I don't know, I thought it was really sweet that he thought of that and that he just, like, did that.
Aww.
Also, it's the one time he showed, like, presence. Like, or, like, one of the 3 times.
True. I feel like Rodney didn't do a whole lot this episode, but I really enjoyed his snarkiness and banter with John, just in terms of getting the hive ship to do pretty much anything. Fly not in a straight line and shoot drones and all this nonsense. And I also really appreciated his little smug smirk in the background when John refers to the hive ship as Atlantis' new hive ship. Even though he can't really get it to work that well. That was great.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was gonna say, there's one line I was cracking up and I just love so much. When John is telling Rodney, proves my confidence in you is not misplaced.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh! And especially hearing that after, I mean, it's been many episodes after, but I was like, especially after, like, post-Trinity, I was like, whoa.
Them's fighting words.
Big words coming from John, yeah.
Also, speaking of the hive ship, Teyla flew a fucking hive ship.
Yeah!
Yes!
Hello?
True. The war crimes overshadowed it, but yeah, that was cool.
That was fucking cool. Yeah, it got completely overshadowed, and it was also not really treated like such a big thing. But, like, we have to remember that she only has, like, very little wraith DNA, and she can, and, like, we know she has, like, these telepathic powers a little bit, but they're not remotely as expressed as, like, with the wraith, and her being able to fly the fucking ship with, like, fates, I think, like, a sort of, do you fly telepathically a little bit? I don't know, but, like, it's fucking, I don't know, it's insane, and she just, does that.
Agree.
I feel like to mention that, but yeah, like
yeah, I feel like John and Rodney should have made a bigger deal of it and like gassed her up way more, because like John is the fly guy, like he loves flying, like he loves ships, so he should have been like, you're literally the coolest for being able to fly this huge ass hive ship, and Rodney should have also been like, you are literally the coolest because wow, you're flying this big ass hive ship, because I feel like he would be into that, but I guess like war crimes are happening, so they were a little distracted.
Yeah.
But still,
I mean, John at least checks in with her after they drop off out of hyperspace. I was like, are you good? Because I think he's worried about her. Rightfully so, because like they don't really know what the link with the hive ship can do, I guess. So that was another like sweet moment. But yeah.
So, okay, here's the thing. We watched this episode quite a bit ago, so I don't remember why I wrote this down. But I actually wrote down, I said, also, I saw that John, he gave Teyla a weird look when she was controlling the wraith ship. I said, rude. I don't know. I have to go back and watch, but I guess maybe I'm thinking things, but I guess John gave her a weird look, and I was upset about that.
I'll have to rewatch it because I didn't notice.
She was controlling it. And she was controlling it. Not, yeah, so maybe like, yeah, I don't know. John's on thin ice. I was like, Teyla's controlling a ship. Maybe that's why he wasn't as super excited, because it was a wraith ship, and he's a little freak.
Or was he like jealous or something? That she got to pilot something instead of him?
Yeah, he was feeling emasculated.
That could have been it.
Yeah!
You know what? That could have been it. I might have missed, let's just say it was that. I prefer that version. Makes it so much funnier. Yeah, I love that. I would love to have seen, I think it's actually a great start to the season of, like, maybe introducing Teyla's powers and stuff, or, like, reintroducing and just sort of, like, letting the audience know, like, oh, hey, she can, do stuff, and, like, a lot of her wraith, like, DNA hasn't been explored yet. We don't know what she can end up doing. And so it's a nice little reminder that, she's actually kind of fucking powerful and, like, a super vital member of the team.
Mm-hmm.
You know who's also a really important member of the team? Hermiod. And we didn't even get to see him. I was so mad. Because Caldwell implied that Hermiod was very unhappy with the plan, but was still doing it. So I wanted to see him, like, grumbling over his console or, like, being really sassy and talking back to Caldwell. Honestly, I would just watch, like, a sitcom with those two. Because I want to see how they interact. Not just on the bridge. But, yeah. Kind of disappointed we didn't see him.
Please. I'm always lamenting, like, maybe I'm just bad at finding new shows, but, like, I need more shows that are, like, silly sci-fi, like Lower Decks, like Star Trek Lower Decks, and
Firefly.
Is it?
Alright.
Oh, very silly.
I didn't know that. Okay, I'll have to watch it.
What? But like a sitcom, like the Orville or something. Only the first season is really funny, but I need a show that I can watch like while I have lunch or something. Like just like 20 minutes of like silly sci-fi. I need more of that. If anyone has recommendations, let me know.
Yeah.
So a sitcom of Hermiod and Caldwell just bickering. I would watch that every day for lunch.
Yes, absolutely.
We need more Hermiod. That's the...
Yes.
You can just ignore the rest of the episode, fuck the war crimes, push it aside. If there's anything you take from this episode, it's that we fucking love Hermiod. And we demand more Hermiod.
Oh my god, because Wolsey mentioned that he never met an Asgard. Like, their introduction
There you go!
Oh my gosh.
Imagine those two in a room together.
Hermiod is so fed up with everything already, like with the plan, with the war crimes, with the Atlantis team, with Caldwell, with every stupid human. maybe he's annoyed at the plan because there are more stupid humans, the dewraithified humans, and now he has to deal with those. He's fed up, and then the stupid suit walks in, and I don't know.
I don't know how the conversation goes, but I know what happens after. Hermiod leaves the room, and I know Woolsey will turn to Elizabeth or whoever, and Elizabeth's just standing there like, you know, she'd just been yelled at or whatever by Hermione, so her eyes are wide, and she's like, first time meeting an alien, or first time meeting an Asgard, how'd it go? And I feel like Woolsey would just turn to her and be like, what a rude little man. Or what a rude little alien. My Woolsey took over, but that's Woolsey.
Oh. More Hermiod.
Also, I wrote down these lines that I guess were said. I don't remember who said them. Because it's just been so long. Quote, there's nothing we can do for them, quote, and then it goes, another quote, maybe not incinerate them.
Oh, that was Rodney! So I don't know who said there's nothing we can do for them. Probably John. But Rodney was like, well, we cannot burn them alive. Maybe. Just saying. And then proceeds to try to do so anyways. That was such a funny moment.
And then proceeds to press the kill button. But a hilarious line. Maybe not incinerate them.
The dark humor.
You can always count on the Rodney lines. Yeah. I love the dark humor. Just to be so god tier.
It was also very ironic that somehow Michael knows how to defuse like a nuke. Completely messed up their plan. Like, how is it possible that he had this knowledge and he could just do this? But they deserved it anyway, so just saying. Good for him.
I think Michael is just really fucking smart.
Yeah.
Like on an,
I agree.
Okay, maybe not on an emotional level. He tries, but then he like kind of falls off that cliff. But I think he's just like also later with like his crimes and like the whole experiments that he does. Like I think he's just a smart guy.
That's true. That's very true.
This is true.
He creates an entire army.
Yeah. I think you need some, like, skill, like, knowledge to do that. I don't think it's that easy.
Speaking of Michael, I just wanted to say, I really loved this plot twist, because I, again, completely forgot that this was even a plot twist, that he actually remembered the entire time, and that the drug, like, hadn't worked for, I don't know how long, but he had, like, remembered at some point, and he was, like, a bunch of them had remembered, and they were secretly, like, you know, plotting to take over the camp and everything. So I love that little plot twist. And I also think Michael is just so a much better person than I could ever be. Because not only did he have to play along and act like he was like, you know, asking John like, oh, like, why are you guys here? Is there anything I can do to help? And all that stuff, having to play along with these people who have taken you away and like reversed your biology again and like betrayed you for the billionth time, right? There was also a line, I guess Carson said, Michael, you're sick. You need to take your medication. And I wrote down, girl, I would have killed Carson.
Yeah.
Michael held he had like some self-restraint, because I don't know how he didn't like immediately launch and just start like trying to eat Carson, or like just launch at John and try to eat him, because that would have driven me insane.
Yeah.
Wait, did Michael really remember the whole time?
The whole time, but I know it's like he remembered, right, like the drug again wore off, or something happened, and him and a bunch of other people, right, it was like a group of like 10, 15 wraith. They, like, for some reason, again, because Carson's reverse doesn't fucking work, they remembered, and their memories came back, and then others didn't, right? So, I don't know how long, that would have been crazy if, like, from the beginning, he knew. That would have been insane. Yeah. But I know that even the fact that he remembered it all, and he was, like, playing along is, like, crazy. And he was smart. He's like, fuck it, I'm gonna play the long game. He's a great actor, because, again, I would have jumped Carson. He said that to me.
Yeah, and the lore there was interesting too, because it was sort of implied that there are some wraith who were more susceptible to coercion and like persuasion than like other wraith who were like had their doubts. But then those weaker wraith were obviously being fed on and killed and all that stuff. So yeah really interesting stuff there.
And now we will head over to Ash for the Bechdel test.
This episode passes!
Woo!
Yay!
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, thanks to the teylabeth.
Yes.
Teylabeth.
Saving our lives once again.
Saving the day.
And then we can actually stay with Ash for the behind the scenes stuff.
Yes, indeed. So, this episode was written by Joseph Malozzi and Paul Mully and directed by Martin Wood. And in other languages, there are quite a few different names. So in Russian, it's illegitimate. In Hungarian, it's excluded ones. In French, it's transformation. But the best one is in German. Because it's actually called A Bad Plan.
Just direct, literal, what's happening in the episode.
I love that so much.
Damn.
Yeah.
They drag them.
Yeah.
That takes the cake.
Yeah. Okay. Now we got that out of the way. Let's go to the background info. So, in this episode, a hive ship is destroyed by another hive. Furthermore, the events of the SG-1 episode, the Pegasus Project, in which part of the SG-1 team destroyed a hive ship using Asgard beaming technology on the Odyssey, occurs shortly after this episode. This brings the total to 10 destroyed hive ships since the expedition arrived in the galaxy.
Woo! We reached double digits!
Ooh.
Hell yeah! Robert Picardo, who played Richard Woolsey, also guest starred in the SG-1 episode Morpheus, which was originally broadcast on the same day as Misbegotten, which was July 21st, 2006. Also my birthday.
Right.
Woo! That's right!
Not 2006,
wink,
though.
Nudge, nudge.
Yeah. Colin Corrigan, who played the lone human wraith, previously played a medical team leader in the SG-1 episode Lifeboat, and a guard in the Atlantis episode The Storm. But he's best known for playing Marine Alan Nowat in Battlestar Galactica.
Wait, what?
Oh,
Wait, what?
Yeah.
no way.
Yeah.
We're over here dying, and Ash is like, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even recognize
I watched
him.
it, I didn't have to recognize him.
You did not know. Yeah, did not recognize. Would not have guessed.
That's crazy.
Emi Aniki, who played Lieutenant Morrison, previously played Boss Jafar Commander in the SG-1 episode Reckoning Part 2, and a fake Jafar in Ripple Effect.
Ugh. Fun.
And we have quite a few recurring actors here. Christopher Heyerdahl is also one of the Wraith in makeup. They only had 3 Wraith in makeup and shot the episode in ways that it looked like there were more than 3.
What? There's no
Okay,
way.
That's
Wait.
very cool.
No, I think I'm not sure if he even says something, but I think at some point I was like, is that Christopher Heyerdahl? Because he's so tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is very cool. No, I was just thinking about it. I was like, I don't even think I noticed. The fact that there's only 3 Wraith, like, in makeup is kind of wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I feel like I have to
Yeah,
watch it again.
Really magic. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I think that this is kind of hilarious. But, like, we noticed how bad some of the hair looked, right? Like, some of the wigs.
Yeah.
True.
Which is, like, the worst. But Lathan, the wraith who got killed by the other wraith, was actually wearing the wig that old Elizabeth wore in Before I Sleep.
No, they repurposed the wig!
They repurposed the
That is
wig!
iconic. That is hilarious.
The Party City wig
I love that.
from season 1! Oh my gosh.
Yeah! They kept it all those years
That's crazy.
for Wraith to wear.
And die in.
Oh, and he died too. Yeah. It's like the wig of death.
Yeah.
Let's hope it doesn't go on anyone else's head in the next few seasons.
Yeah.
And we have one little goof. Shortly after the bomb failed to detonate and Michael is talking to the wraith, you can actually see Lathan in the back of the crowd, despite the fact that he died earlier that episode.
Oops. It's his ghost haunting the scene.
That is
Exactly.
funny. What?
Yeah.
Why did they do that? That's funny.
I guess they just had like I don't know. Maybe they rearranged the scenes later on, or they just had a few guys, like in Wraith attire, like Wraith human, and they repurposed us as well. Yeah, that's it from me.
Nice. Thank you. Now we'll head over to Tor and Ash for this little fic rec section.
Yeah. So, I kind of was having a struggle trying to pick something to pull from this episode to kind of have a theme for Fic Rec Corner this week. But I decided, why not do a murder mystery? Because it's kind of like a murder mystery in this episode, right? With the wraith body being found and all that. So, the fic that I chose is called, of course I didn't write the title down, just a link. The fic is called The Bridge is Love, by Mira, one of my favorite Atlantis fic authors of all time. It is interesting ships in this one. It's Mikshep, Teyla, and Zelenka, and Ronan and Keller. So this is a, season 4, season 5-ish fic. Interesting ships, I know. But the story is so good. And it kind of just drops you right in the middle of this murder mystery where an Athosian child's body has been found. Presumably murdered. And they're trying to determine what exactly happened to the kid. So, obviously, trigger warning if child death is a issue for you. But it is a really good, well-written story. A lot of interesting character moments. And just a good mystery. So, yeah, check it out.
Very cool. I don't think I've ever heard of a Teyla Zelenka ship
Yeah.
fic before, so I'm curious.
Yeah. So I have a little addendum to our last bonus-ode, the Basingstoke Comic-Con episode, and I wanted to link a little collection. It's the Basingstoke Con SGA Ride Club 2024. And it's a collection currently. There are 8 works in it, and I just read you the description. A small collection of fics written to the apt prompt, nothing is fucking going to plan, courtesy to Logic Gun, in honor of Basingstoke Comic Con 2024. You don't have to have been there to add a fic, but some of us wrote these or at least started them on a sunny, slightly damp lawn with an unreasonable number of buttercups while escaping the queues only exceeded by dead royals. So it's just a little collection that was inspired by Basic Stoke Comic Con, where nothing went fucking to plan, and it's just a few Stargate Atlantis figs. Check it out if you like.
That is so fun. I love collections like that.
Yeah.
And now it makes me kind of want someone to write a fic where the Atlantis team goes to convention for whatever reason.
I need it. I need it now.
Oh my god, yes. Yes. That would be hilarious. Ronan is, like, if it was, like, in, I don't know, when did Aquaman come out? Was it, like, 2017, 2016?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
They go in, like, 2017, and John and Rodney convince Ronan to go as Aquaman.
Oh, so cute!
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
For
absolutely.
Sure.
Because he bears a striking resemblance to Aquaman.
Yeah. Uncanny.
To Jason Momoa as Aquaman, yeah.
Yeah.
I need all of them to be dressing up, though. I need Jason as Aquaman. I need Teyla as Buffy.
Oh,
I like that one.
Let's see. What would Rodney do?
keep talking about Batman.
Yeah, I feel like
I was gonna say, I was like, would it be kind of funny if he did Batman?
yeah, he's definitely a Batman. But I feel like him and John would fight over who got to be Batman.
I was thinking the exact same thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
Definitely.
I was like, would it be too hilarious if they just fucking showed up both in Batman costumes?
no.
That's the best. I feel like Rodney would make a functional utility belt too. And then John would get all pouty and jealous that he has a real working belt so that he would make one for him too. Well, what's Zelenka dress up as at the convention?
Ooh. Not Robin.
Imagine.
Oh my gosh.
He lost a bet with Rodney and John and then has to go show up as Robin.
I need it.
Yeah. Aw. Can Chuck at least come along as well?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like, emotional support.
Oh,
I need Elizabeth to go as well.
Yeah. Who'd she be?
Okay, this is so random, but I don't know why. I was just thinking of, like, I was getting Wizard of Oz vibes for some random reason. And I was just like, Chuck could be a flying monkey.
Terrible. Oh no.
Get a nice, like, if Elizabeth goes as, like, what is it? The Green Wizard? Was it the Wicked Witch of the West?
Oh,
or whatever?
yeah.
I think Chuck could be her flying monkey.
That's true. That would be funny.
I feel like they could be theater nerds together.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
I could see
oh
that.
Oh my god. Yes. I love that.
Now, we've done another accidental. We just always end up picking like these random like Halloween costumes and stuff.
Yeah.
And Atlantis too. We love it.
It's
So
fun.
we need fic/fan art. This is our official proposal.
We were deprived of an official Halloween episode where they got to dress up in silly costumes. So I say...
I say we're valid.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
And that's it, I think. I think that's it for this episode. Yay! And now we're gonna just wrap up with our final thoughts and our ratings for this episode. Take it away, whoever wants to.
I'm gonna say... Okay, I'm having a struggle because there were some things in this episode that I didn't enjoy, but then there was so much stuff that, like, character stuff that I really did enjoy. So I want to give it, like, a 7.5 out of 10. I think that's what I'm gonna give it.
I think it's the same for me. There's...
Yeah!
it's kind of a solid episode, but there's a bunch of stuff that's kind of weird, but there are good character moments. I think those really stood out for me, but yeah.
Yeah.
So 7.5 for me as well.
And I'm also gonna say 7.5.
We match!
We all agree!
Going on!
Yeah. Exactly what you guys said. There's some good, there's some bad. Maybe I go 7, actually. Sorry. I got us all excited. Well, we're all the same. We're close enough. 7.5. I just feel like, not a lot left to say. We did not enjoy huge parts of it. But whatever.
Yeah,
we're
that's
good.
fair.
Yeah.
On to the next.
Oh my god, the next.
The next. Looking forward for that one. So as usual, you can find everything linked down below in the description box for the fics and the collection, and also all of our personal socials if you want to see what we're up to during the week. And you can also follow our Jumping Puddles accounts if you would like to see when we upload new episodes and keep up to date with that. And thanks for hanging out with us today.
Bye!
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 All right, you clowns, listen up. I don't often get a chance to say this, so savor it. Good work, boys and girls. Let's go home.